Mr. Cox and Mr. Mohan, the question is going to be directed to you. The dangerous QAnon conspiracy that started in 2017 spread unchecked on your platforms for years before you started to downrank and then banned it on your platforms. A February 2022 poll found that 16% of Americans now believe in this conspiracy theory. We heard this morning that your algorithms push sensational content. Mark Zuckerberg, in fact, said in 2018 that this is the, quote, basic incentive problem, end of quote. And he goes on to say that, quote, when left unchecked, people will engage disproportionately with more sensationalist and provocative content, end of quote from Mr. Zuckerberg. So my question is, if your recommendation algorithms are focusing on engagement, understand the business of business reasons for doing that, and provocative content that increases that engagement, because that's certainly the most engaging, is it inevitable that they will promote extreme content that you have not yet labeled violative, like QAnon? Mr. Cox, I'll start with you, and then Mr. Mohan.
Thank you, Senator. Just to start with QAnon, this is an organization that today is labeled as a violence-inducing network and so is not allowed on our platform. In general, we believe there is no place for terrorism, for violence-inducing content, for extremism across the network. We work hard to take that content down, and as we've talked about, we publish our results and work with law enforcement to make sure that we can do so quickly.
Mr. Mohan.
Senator, thank you for the question. QAnon on YouTube is deemed to be a harmful criminal conspiracy. We do not allow that content on our platform. We've been removing that type of content from our platform for years, given the nature of potential incitement to violence. But we don't just stop there. Not only do we remove the content because there is no place for hate, harassment, violent extremism, or graphic violence of any kind on YouTube, but we also make sure that when users are looking for information on our platform around a particular topic, news topic, what have you, we raise up content that comes from authoritative sources that includes typically mainstream media outlets, et cetera, that can put that particular news story in context. So we have a combination of a number of tools, those 4 R's that I alluded to before, that work comprehensively to make sure that this type of content has no home on YouTube.
Well, I appreciate that. I wanted to hear your response from both of you. I appreciate it has no home, and you're aware of that now. The intro to the question was that it started to spread in 2017. This stuff was on your platforms for years. So it took you a long time to come to the conclusion that both of you have just come to. But I want to get back to really the question that I have, is that we have a quote from Mr. Zuckerberg. We understand the business model, although I think Mr. Cox said it isn't necessarily to keep people on platforms. It is to engage. The more people are engaged in your platforms, the better from a business perspective. You'll be able to serve up more ads for folks, generate more revenue. And just as Mr. Zuckerberg said, that people engage disproportionately in sensational and provocative content. That content is actually good for your business. If more sensational, provocative content is put forward, get people to stay on the platform longer, you're going to be able to show them more ads. And so my question is, isn't that inevitable, that that's going to happen when you continue to put this content? I appreciate after the fact, and we're going to talk about your model up front to try to prevent some of this stuff from happening at the front end. I appreciate at the back end that you're going to take some action. How many people saw the QAnon false or the conspiracy theory? I said 16% of the American people now think this conspiracy theory is real. So you caught it, but not until 16% of the American people are part of this insidious theory. So tell me about the upfront. Why are you not engaged upfront before you launch products to understand and perhaps anticipate how things could be misused? I'll start with you, Mr. Mohan, this time, and then Mr. Cox.
Yes, Senator. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify what I think might be a potential misconception in terms of our business model and what our incentives are. To be very clear, we have no incentive to host this content, to promote it in any nature, and that goes to the fundamental nature of what YouTube's business actually is. We're fundamentally an advertising platform. We generate revenue through advertising partners. We share that revenue, the majority of that revenue, with our creators. And so when we talk about the creator economy, all of those, over 400,000 jobs that we've created in this country, it is through that business model that generates revenue on behalf of our creators. And our advertisers have told us in no uncertain terms that they don't want to be associated with content that promotes hate, violent extremism of any sort, terrorism or what have you. And I have firsthand experience myself over the years when they feel that sort of content is on our platform, they walk away. And so we have not just a moral imperative, that's my top priority, living up to our responsibility, but also it aligns with our business goals. And so
I appreciate that, and I'm not questioning that. Questioning is how long it takes to be able to identify this. This was up for 2+ years before the changes there. So, Mr. Cox, Facebook currently has an advertising campaign touting that you've spent $16 billion over the last 6 years on safety and security. I don't think it's just the amount of money that is spent, it's about the results that are most important. You're a very large company, and in fact, I think over the last 6 years, revenue close to $450 billion, a massive amount of money, a relatively small amount relative to the total revenues of your company. In fact, I think it's equal to basically what you've spent is $1 per user per year for the entire globe. And in comparison, Meta spent over $85 billion on stock buybacks over the last 6 years, considerably more than you pay on trust and safety. So why is your company willing to spend so much more per year to drive up a stock price, but not willing to spend the money necessary to be able to pull down this dangerous content a whole lot quicker and perhaps actually be forward-leaning and design products from the get-go to eliminate the abuse of these platforms?
Thank you, Senator. This is an issue for the whole company, not just for the safety teams or for the specific investments that we talked about there. I expect every engineer, product manager, designer, researcher, data scientist, whether it's building a new product or whether it's iterating upon an existing product, to pay attention to safety. That's something that's built into the DNA of the company. It's something I personally care very deeply about. It's something we expect folks who are designing products to think about as a part of their work. And so in addition to the specific investment of 40,000 folks who work directly on safety and security for the company, it's part of the culture of how everybody at the company thinks about their work.
Well, I'm going to turn over to the ranking members. We have a number of members here, but I'm going to drill down a little further on that comment in a further round. Ranking Member Portman, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you.